Welcome to the program. I'm Okbayemi Obosheni. Let's take you through the major updates in the world of business. The Nigerian government has commenced the rollout of a national electronic fiscal system to modernize Nigeria's tax administration, cooperation, and enhance transparency in revenue collection. The Federal Inland Revenue Service said the EFS, which incorporates an electronic invoicing solution known as the merchant buyer model, went live on August 1, 2025. Now that after a successful pilot phase that began in November 2024. The first phase targets large companies with an annual turnover of 5 billion naira and above, and the platform is designed to make tax compliance easier, faster, and more transparent for taxpayers, providing the FIRS with real-time visibility into commercial transactions, while also ensuring the authenticity, accuracy, and completeness of invoices. Nigeria's non-oil exports soared to $3.225 billion in the first half of 2025, marking yet another milestone in the sector's growth. The Nigerian Export Promotion Council announced this figure represents a 19.59% increase over the $2.696 billion recorded in the same period of 2024. The Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of the NEPC, Nonya Ayeni, disclosed this in Abuja while presenting the Council's first half-year progress report on the nation's non-oil export performance. She said the volume of goods shipped abroad also rose to 4.04 million metric tons from 3.83 million metric tons in the first half of 2024. It was largely driven by strong global demand for Nigerian commodities from emerging markets such as India, Brazil, Vietnam, and other African countries. It's time for a short break, but we'll be back with updates from the corporate world. Welcome back. A total of 60 more compressed natural gas power trucks are expected to be delivered to the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and Petrochemicals in the next 6 weeks. Now, this was revealed by the Group Chief of Branding and Communication, Dangote Industries Limited, Anthony Chijena, in a statement, while giving an update about the product delivery trucks ordered to fast-track PMS delivery across the country. According to the statement, the refinery commenced the first receipt of trucks, an integral part of its fuel distribution logistic program set to start on August 15, 2025. The initiative aims to transform the fuel distribution landscape within Nigeria by reducing logistics costs and also enhancing supply efficiency for customers. And in Lagos, the state government has issued a stern warning to e-hailing companies and operators, citing increasing safety concerns and regulatory breaches. The government has mandated immediate vehicle inspections and full compliance with state transportation laws. According to a statement by Bolanle Ogunlola, the Deputy Director of Public Affairs at the Ministry of Transportation, the Commissioner for Transportation, Oluwaseun Wasiyemi, highlighted the deteriorating condition of some vehicles operating under e-hailing platforms. The Commissioner expressed grave concern over rising incidents of poor service and criminal activities facilitated through these platforms, warning the operators who fail to comply risk sanctions, including possible license suspension. It's time for another break, but when Money Matters return, we'll be turning to Lagos State, where the government is taking steps to tackle food insecurity. I'll bring you details of this after this break. Welcome back. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has launched the Produce for Lagos program and the 500 billion naira off-take guarantee fund, an initiative of the state government aimed at boosting food security, reducing imports, and enhancing agricultural productivity across Nigeria. Governor Sanwo-Olu said the program and the fund reflected his administration's commitment to achieving food security, inclusive prosperity, and sustainable growth, not just for Lagos State but also for Nigeria. Speaking during the launching of the program at the Lagos House, Ikeja, Sanwo-Olu said Lagos is Nigeria's largest food market, consuming over 50% of the food traded in the southwest, with a food economy valued at 16.14 trillion naira. The governor expressed optimism that the program would provide guaranteed offtake contracts, access to financing and logistics support, connecting Lagosians directly with Lagos' dynamic food economy. Well, let's now discuss this further. Agro-entrepreneur Julius Ogar now joins me on the program. Thank you for joining me on the program, Mr. Ogar. Now, you would agree with me that this is a groundbreaking initiative by the Lagos State government. Now, I would like to know from your perspective as an agro-processing expert, what is your overall assessment of the Produce of Lagos initiative, and how significant is this kind of state-led intervention in strengthening Nigeria's food system?
All right, thank you very much for that question. I would say it is a very welcome development. And it's another plus for Lagos, which has always been referred to as the center of excellence. This underscores that excellence. And just permit me a little to digress that since 1999, Lagos has been on the trajectory of incremental development, consistent development. And when we talk about fiscal federalism, if half the states in Nigeria, that's about 19 or so, if they were doing just a little fraction of what Lagos is doing, Nigeria will be a significantly different country from what it is today. Now, the significance of the policy of Grow for Lagos, just taken by the Lagos state government, cannot be overemphasized. If you look at Lagos as the largest food market in Nigeria, and in fact, one of the largest cities in Africa. I say one of the largest because there's a contest between between Lagos and Cairo in Egypt as to which is the most populous city. And the reason why that contest it cannot be decided is because the population of Lagos is just an estimation. Since 2006, when we had a national census, there has been no other census, and by next year that is going to make it 20 years. So we just guess that there are about 22 million people in Lagos, while there are about 21 million people in Cairo. Now, if you look at the geography of Lagos, it is just a concrete jungle. There's hardly any space where you could want to establish a large-scale agricultural project to feed that kind of population. So Lagos remains a consuming market for agro-produce across the country. Now this development is going to change the initiative. Even if the food will not be grown in Lagos, at least there will be an assurance that given consistency, the kind of consistency we have known Lagos for from 1999 to date, of fulfilling that saying that governance is a vacuum, is a continuum, where one administration continues from where the other stopped. I'm saying this because in a short time, Governor Sanwo-Olu would have come to the end of his term. I am hopeful that whoever takes over from him will continue this policy, and once the cost of food in Lagos is reduced, the economic shock that Lagosians are experiencing by the cost of living will also be significantly reduced. So this is very, very significant. In fact, I cannot exhaust the benefits of it. Thank you.
How might the Produce for Lagos program affect cassava and other staple crop value chains across Nigeria?
It's going to affect them positively, if you ask me. If you look at Kogi State, for instance, and Ogun and Ondo, which are somehow proximate to Lagos, these states produce a lot of cassava. And the cassava value chain, the best we do with it in Nigeria is to transform cassava to gari. And then because gari moves into the cities, because gari is suitable for long-term storage. Now you can imagine a situation where a farmer in Ogun, a farmer in Ondo, a farmer in Taraba, or a farmer in Kogi, which are some of the states that are hoping to partner with Lagos, when they have the assurance that they can expand their land, they can expand their acreage, because there is an off-taker, because there is some 500 billion naira lying somewhere from where, an off-taker can make a commitment and say, grow cassava, I'll buy it. Farmers will be encouraged, and the cassava, value chain would be expanded. So people will be assured that they will get income for the labor they are putting in. In fact, they even get, funding. Like they can get advanced funding to say, okay, this helps you to expand your acreage. This helps you to get more agro inputs. This helps you to, get more seedlings, employ more labor, buy more machinery, and the economic benefits cannot just be be stated on paper. But let's even start it and see where it takes us to. Yes.
You've mentioned that the initiative is a very good one, but then I would like to know, do you think there are any potential challenges that might arise in aggregating agricultural produce at the scale Lagos State demands? It's a very large one.
All right. I'm also glad to say that some of the challenges are already being addressed. The challenges of logistics, the challenges of post-harvest losses, the challenges of off-taking, that is who buys what you produce, are also being addressed in these, with the special purpose vehicle that Lagos is trying to, to put in place. So one of the major problems of agriculture in Nigeria, if you travel out of Lagos, you would see is post-harvest losses. If you go to Benue State, and I always make this instance, if you go to Benue State, fruit, vegetables, farmers struggle to sell off at retail prices. They can barely sell a fraction of what they produce, and a lot of that comes to waste. And the reason is simply because there are no off-takers, and there are no markets, and there are no processing industries. This is a significant challenge across the spectrum of the country. It's not just in Benue or Kogi or wherever else. It cuts across all the country. For this reason, a lot of food comes to waste. And if you consider I'm addressing the question you just asked, if you consider the large population of Lagos, and you consider that it's difficult to just be buying rice, millets and onions and what have you, all food produce coming from all other parts of the countries, alongside the security challenges that we now experience. It's just too much, and these are efforts by private individuals, by middlemen, struggling to make a living from commerce. That does not bring down the cost of food significantly. But when the state, as the major stakeholder, when the state now makes a huge investment that partners other states, because I see that Governor Sanwo-Olu is hoping to partner with Niger, is hoping to partner with Taraba, is hoping to partner with Kogi, and I hope as it moves forward, other states will also link in. The situation is going to be where Lagos has become like a trigger point, that is, that there's the center of focus that is generating agricultural activity across the other partner states. So this market is going to be like a pool from where foods will be coming from all corners of the country. And trust me, if they follow it to the letter, the cost of food will drop, not just in Lagos, but in neighboring states. And for goodness sake, Nigeria has no business, apart from Lagos. We can just spare Lagos and say it has become an urban metropolis. There's no space for agriculture. But the rest of the country, we have no business buying food. If we were utilizing all our resources as we should, Nigeria would be exporting food to the West African region. We have no business importing food.
Now, the Offtake Guarantee Fund is a 500 billion naira facility. What do you believe are the key conditions for that kind of fund to be impactful?
Okay, already there's a private sector partnership. So along with that, there are going to be other key players that will be brought in, And the private sector is not like the public sector. They work based, they are more efficient, they are better organized, and they know the rules of business. And if you leave it to government alone, it becomes a bureaucracy. And then the civil servants just want to push papers, get their money, and a lot of the time they just waste time, and at the end of the day, no work is done. So with the private sector partnership, we hope efficiency will drive this policy. And Lagos, I beg to say, is I don't like Lagos. I won't give anything to stay in Lagos, except perhaps a job that comes with everything, I expect as a person. But when I look at that state and look at what the entire country on a scale of preference, I think Lagos is going places. It's an economy larger than some countries on the continent of Africa. And the infrastructure they are putting in place, this is the only state where you are seeing them reclaiming land from the ocean. Other states that are coastal states are running away from the coastlines. Lagos is moving towards the coastline. It is because of that trajectory of incremental development. And then you can just look at the practical example of the Dangote refinery, for instance. Only a state like Lagos could take that enterprise in it, and you won't have any fracas. So if that kind of partnership, that kind of synergy with private sector players is well entrenched, it's well developed, and the focus is on, delivering the best good, the maximum good for the maximum number of people, that alone is a good starting point, and it is going to take the policy to a good place. 500 billion naira is a lot of money, but if by the time you convert it to the dollar valuation of it, it is still a lot of money anyway. But if you just leave it to the state, it is going to be a policy. At the end of the day, that money fizzles out, nothing comes out of it. But if you give it to private sector players, and you provide the supervisory oversight, and the necessary requisite partnership conditions are in place, and all the partners are putting pen to paper to make their commitments known. You see, by the time you know it, we will have moved from food, producing for Lagos, to processing for maybe the Southwest, and perhaps even processing for Nigeria. There's a company somewhere in Plateau State, it's called NASCO. At some point in time, NASCO produced the best biscuits you could find anywhere in Nigeria, and it was in every market. And for goodness sake, NASCO is still there, but where are the inputs coming from? They've all dropped. So what point am I driving at? You will have a transition point where you come from, just bringing raw food to the market, to also having processed food, so that this vacuum that opportunists, foreign companies are trying to take advantage of. There's a vacuum they are trying to take advantage of by promoting GMOs. So we just knock it off by our own inputs. If we have organically grown foods from across Nigeria, the whole of Nigeria is producing for Lagos, and Lagos is saying, okay, there's so much food we want to process for the whole of the Southwest or for the whole of the country, we would have generated more jobs. We would have boosted the economy. We would have enough food to export if we can't consume all of it. I mean, just kudos to Governor Sanwo-Olu and Lagos State government. That's the very least I can say to them. I don't know if I've answered your question once again, but I'm passionate about this. Thank you for that question.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, 500 billion naira is a lot of money. Now, what infrastructure gaps, storage, or even processing logistics do you think must be addressed to make this program viable across different states? Because according to the state government, it's not just for Lagos State alone, but it's meant to transform food security across Nigeria.
All right. Logistics is very important. We know that movement from the farm to the market is a very huge challenge in Nigeria. And we can see that the roads across the country are also in a very bad shape. So if transportation can be addressed, that would help the program substantially. Now, transportation, it is we're one of the few countries where you have livestock, for instance. Anyway, we're talking about food, so let me just come back to the point. Where you move food, you move tomatoes, you move onions, you move rice and beans in trucks by road from Maiduguri to Lagos, from Kano, Sokoto to Lagos, from Zamfara to Lagos, and vice versa. A lot of them, because of bad roads, spend so much time on the roads, and then before they get to the market, some of the produce are significantly degraded in terms of quality. Now, if you have the capacity to move these things, let's say you have fresh vegetables and you can move them in cold vans, that will prolong, their shelf life on the road. But again, it will have the disadvantage that refrigerated vegetables, once they are out of refrigeration, degrade very, very fast. So we have this problem, and it is real. Then you have the movement of dry products, for instance, rice. Basically, that also stays on the road for a long time. And if you're moving rice in trucks, for instance, and it rains, the rice is going to become moldy. If the bags get soaked in water, the rice is going to become moldy. That also affects storage in the long run. So transportation is something they need to address. Infrastructure that caters for both dry and fresh commodities needs to be put in place. Now, these don't come cheap, so the investment has to be made in getting that ready. And it is also going to help because Lagos is saturated, you now have, a partnership with Niger State, for example, that says, let us set up warehouses in Niger. Let us set up warehouses in Taraba. Let us set up warehouses in Kogi. In Kogi, there's a silo for storage of Gari, so that when the market of Gari in Lagos needs additional supplies, all you need to do is just, move supplies from Kogi down to Lagos. Then you make a necessary call. The produce is already in safe storage. All you need to do, you would have had a provision whereby you have the kind of vehicles that can move Gari, because of course, Gari is not like rice. If Gari gets beaten by the rain, it's as good as gone. It's as good as wasted. So these challenges are there. And then we should have a situation where we can move these things in bulk by rail. So we stop depending on road transportation, and the road infrastructure are in a very bad shape, like I said earlier. So some of these structural gaps need to be filled. And when we set up, warehouses in the states, we would as well have been expanding the employment beyond the borders of Lagos to other places where all of this aggregates to more people having work to do and being productively engaged. And then we should also think of processing factories. A place like Benue and Kogi just need processing factories. And if they set up these even if they are at cottage level, if they set up these, a lot of young people will be employed. Every year, we are churning out graduates with certificates from universities in millions. All of them coming with certificates, expecting to get white-collar jobs that are not available. If we can have factories where these people get employed, we would have solved a significant problem across a large spectrum of our economy. So these are some of the things the executioners and planners of this project should take into cognizance as they go forward. Everything cannot be done at once, but at least they should start. And as they start, they can begin to, leverage one opportunity to improve on what they are doing. And that is how it's going to be like. It's not going to just come like one, like a drop-down menu from somewhere. No, it's going to be, progressive, incremental, and with the commitment of the people involved and the governments involved and the private partners involved, I think they will be off to a good start, but at least they should start.
Now let's talk about the private sector now. How do you think the private sector, particularly agro-processors like yourself, can play a leading role in ensuring the success of Produce for Lagos?
Well, the private sector, I'm glad to say, let me start from where you didn't even ask. one of the survival trends and capacities of our local farmers across the country is that they've never depended on government for inputs. Government makes pronouncements about fertilizers, about herbicides, about seeds and all of that. It ends with government pronouncements. At the very best, it ends in the hands of middlemen who are very, very exploitative. And then the farmers just resort to their own means and grow their food and do the best they can. The private sector in Nigeria as it is, for a lot of the time are self-funded and self-dependent. Cooperation with the government is minimal. And then you give it to them that a lot of the time you give it to us farmers that we just make do with what we have. But as it is, when the policy is right and when the concern is genuine, when government is really, really intentional about doing this thing, and I'm passionate about this because we're talking about Lagos here, and Lagos has always demonstrated its capacity to put policies in place and to pursue them. You can see that in railway transportation, urban mass transportation, and all of that. So that's what drives my passion. So we're talking about a state that will not just say, but will do. And I hope that they will do. And now that they've drawn in the private sector and are willing to partner with it, all the private sector needs a lot of the times is the funding and the capital that they don't have. The inputs and infrastructure. Infrastructure, like electricity, for instance, affects agro production. Machinery affects the volume of food production. So if we look into this and we tie all the necessary bolts, the private sector will just will gear in and do what they have to do. They are also, don't forget, they are business owners and entrepreneurs. They want to see their businesses grow. The only way their businesses will grow is if they put in the necessary effort that makes their businesses to grow. Farming and agriculture is quite lucrative. Like you can see what is happening in cocoa right now, the cocoa boom. If you leave Lagos and go to Ondo or go to Cross River and see what cocoa farmers are enjoying, bam! No government input in it. But assuming that government had a cocoa factory where they were off taking cocoa from the farmers and not the middlemen who are buying to export, wow! You would imagine the trickle down effect in the economy. So once there's a collaboration with a good partnership with the private sector, I believe a lot will be achieved. They should just keep on the right track.
Well, agro entrepreneur Julius Ogar, thank you for speaking to us on the program. And that's it on this episode of the program. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Okbayemi Owusheni. See you next time.